Education is without a doubt one of the most important things in life. It is something that everyone has the right to experience, and it should provide the tools for children to develop and live a fulfilling life. However, it is unfortunately a political battleground which is often mired in such negativity due to the sector uncertainty. However, let's look at what I think it should be as I guide you through my blue sky ideology to education. Mandela once said that education is the most powerful tool you can use to change the world, and this is such an empowering belief. This view has shaped my opinion of education as something which should develop organically according to the needs of the individual students, the nation, as well as the world in general. Therefore, children must be at the heart of the educational process, working in collaboration with teachers and taking ownership over their own learning journey. This is reinforced by Michael Gove, who said that children must be the authors of their own life story and given the precious freedom to follow their own path. As such, I found this module to be incredibly interesting as it has opened my mind to other forms of education, which emphasises the freedom of the learner. I believe that education should be something which tries to bring the very best out of the children through giving them respect, which thinkers like Montessori saw as lacking, as she believed adults were overbearing and rude. From Montessori, which places trust and respect in the children, the forest school approach, which challenges the view that education should take place in a classroom led by a teacher, to homeschooling, which can remove unnecessary pressures, for example bullying, and allow the child to flourish naturally. For me, the purpose of education is to inspire pupils and develop a love of learning. Einstein believed learning and education were not the same thing, and this again is another positive for the forest school system, which provide an education based on experiences rather than rigorous classroom education. This system can also boost confidence and esteem, an issue in many mainstream schools and society. Additionally, I believe the English system tries to force children into education too early, and they are not given the ability to enjoy their youth and learn through social interaction and experiences. Children in England are enrolled in school from the age of 4, whereas in Finland, 98% of children are enrolled in a preschool from 6 years old. An additional issue with English education is the process of rigorous examination. When children in Finland start school at the age of 7, children in UK schools are preparing for their Key Stage 1 SAT exams. In a recent survey of 1,200 teachers, it was discovered that over 70% noted an increase in cases of stress, anxiety and fear of failure in the last 2 years. This is unacceptable. If the purpose of school is to prepare children with tools for life, then creating a fear of failure is a failure in the educational system itself. Children should be taught to respect failure. In some primary schools I have visited, teachers openly discuss failure with pupils as positive things, as a regular step in the path of understanding. When Gove became Education Secretary, he made vast changes to the national curriculum, which was met with derision from key thinkers such as Ken Robinson. Robinson claimed that Gove did not understand what creativity in the curriculum looked like. However, Robinson himself has been very coy with regards to coming up with an answer for this. Willingham says that Robinson's lack of detail regarding a creative curriculum has weakened his argument. However, creativity means different things to different people, and as such, one person's view is probably going to differ from someone else's. This brings up the most important thing about education in the fact that it is not one size fits all. Therefore, what this means is that just in the same way that teachers should not dictate knowledge to students, the government should not dictate the curriculum and tell teachers what their children need to learn. If education is as I believe it should be, then collaboration should be shown at all levels of the curriculum from creation to implementation. Something I admire about forest schools is that it can encourage risky play. Whilst teachers risk assess and try to minimise dangers, they don't eradicate them completely, as this is unrealistic. A study carried out in a forest school also found that with discussion between students and teachers, children analysed the risks and policed themselves. There is also a view that schools mollycoddle children, and from my experience in secondary schools, either try to protect them from failure or make them fear it. I have seen students often told what they can and can't do, what to learn and when to learn it. There is little cooperation in mainstream schools, which brings us to the waning standards of discipline and respect. Tate notes a 2015 study carried out by the Association of Teachers and Lecturers, where it was discovered that over 20% of teachers had faced false accusations from students and over 12% from parents or family friends. Tate also notes a big problem in the current generation of parents expecting too much from schools without necessarily supporting them in return. Parental engagement is key to my educational ideology and is also a key component to alternative education systems like forest schooling, Montessori and of course homeschooling. Parents have to understand their role in their child's educational journey and must know that children don't stop learning when they leave the school environment. My mother was key in my education and encouraged me to pursue extracurricular activities. I know many parents face time constraints. However, as a single working mother, I was very lucky that she always put my education first and believed that the experiences I had in my childhood would shape the rest of my life. This has inspired my ideology and set the bar for the role as parents. The final issue I have is the reliance placed on technology. Tate believes that teachers spend too little time talking to the class as they have to work with screens, which appear to be the current educational fad. This worrying educational trend is reinforced by Vaughan, who points out that in 2010, 60% of iPads which were bought globally were by the education sector. The Kaiser Foundation found in a 2010 study that the children who were sampled spent an average of 7.5 hours a day on entertainment technology. This trend has to be bucked, and education has to go back to basics to encourage children to learn outside, learn through face-to-face social interaction, and learn through Vygotskian approach, where teacher acts as a facilitator rather than a dictator. I understand that we live in a technological age, but when children go to school at 5 unable to hold a pen because they are used to touching screens and tablets, then something has to be done. As such, in my ideology, children should not be introduced to technology until at least Key Stage 2, and the use must be limited and regulated, not just by teachers, but also parents at home. To conclude, I believe that children need the freedom to learn and must be taught about risks when they are young, and they must experience the risks and failure in a regulated environment, but it is unethical and unfair to try to protect the children from these. For me, education has become sterile and needs an injection of risk and collaboration between children, parents and teachers in order to kickstart a failing system. Education needs to go back to basics. Children must be allowed freedom to be children and should start formal education later in life without additional pressure from exams. My presentation was entitled as My Blue Sky Ideology to Education. However, for as long as education remains a political battleground, for me, we will be stuck in a thunderstorm which will damage generations for the foreseeable future.